I had always believed that a mother's love could overcome any obstacle, but I never imagined that this love would be tested by the very dark recesses of existence, where the inexplicable hides and reveals itself in the form of a smile that did not belong to a mere child's face. From Gabriel's earliest days, I felt an inexplicable connection, something that told me he would be special. His large, curious eyes shone with an innocence that filled my heart with tenderness. However, as he grew, small details began to catch my attention. There was something about his way of smiling, a trait that did not match the natural sweetness of childhood. His smile was always wide, disproportionate, as if it concealed secrets I could never understand. I vividly remember an autumn afternoon when Gabriel was only 4 years old. We were at the park, and while other children ran and played, he remained still, intently observing an old oak tree. His lips curved into a smile that, to me, seemed laden with a strange melancholy. At that moment, a shiver ran down my spine, but I dismissed it as nothing more than my maternal imagination, always so protective and sometimes excessively cautious. As the years passed, the smiles became more frequent, and with them, the signs that something was profoundly wrong. When Gabriel turned 10, I began to notice that his smile no longer matched the expected emotions of a child. He smiled without apparent reason, during meals, while watching television, and even in the absolute silence of the night. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and see him lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, wearing that same unsettling smile, as if he were seeing something no one else could perceive. My unease turned into anguish. I sought help from doctors and psychologists, hoping to find an explanation for his behavior. Every consultation ended with the same enigmatic response. Children go through strange phases. Perhaps it's just his imagination. But what others saw as a phase, I saw as a prelude to something far darker. I felt that, with each passing day, something was seeping into Gabriel, a presence that was usurping his innocence and molding that smile into something inhuman. By the time he was 12, the manifestations had surpassed the boundaries of childhood behavior. On a cold winter night, as I wrestled with restless dreams, I awoke to a strange sound, a creaking noise coming from the hallway. My heart pounded as I hesitantly descended the stairs. As I approached Gabriel's room, the slightly opened door revealed a shadow that concealed more than just darkness. And then I saw him. Gabriel standing in the doorway, his gaze fixed, his smile seemingly glowing in the dim light. "Mom," he whispered, his trembling voice contrasting with the unease on his face. He won't let me stop smiling. A chill ran through me. Never before had my son shown fear or distress, and now those words pierced me like a cold dagger. Who was he? From that moment on, our household routine changed drastically. I could no longer sleep, and every shadow seemed to hide a threat. That smile, which once seemed like just a strange quirk, had become a sinister mark of something far beyond human understanding. In the days that followed, I began to notice small details that indicated the unwanted presence was growing stronger. Several times, as I approached Gabriel, he seemed lost in thought, as if he were conversing with someone I couldn't see. On one such occasion, while preparing dinner, I heard murmuring coming from his room. Approaching cautiously, I saw him kneeling before a small makeshift altar, filled with magazine clippings and drawings I had never seen before. At the center stood a small image of a fallen angel, with hollow eyes and a disturbing smile. My heart pounded and tears welled in my eyes. How had my child gained access to such macabre images? And more importantly, who or what had awakened this change in him? I tried to engage Gabriel in conversation, asking innocent questions to uncover whether he knew something I didn't. But he was evasive, responding only with a smile that seemed to conceal an unspeakable truth. The nights became an endless torment. I spent hours awake, replaying every word he had spoken, every gesture, every silence heavy with mystery. In my silent prayers, I begged for an answer, for salvation, something that could free my son from this malevolent influence. The days went by, and Gabriel's behavior grew more intense. On a rainy afternoon, I clearly remember finding him in the kitchen, staring intently at a bottle of medicine, his eyes glazed over, his smile so wide it seemed to defy logic. When I tried to approach him, he murmured, "Mommy, he taught me to smile like this so no one would ever forget that I'm always here." Those words echoed in my mind like a sinister warning. Who was he? And why had my son, such a sweet and sensitive child, become a prisoner to an invisible presence? My search for answers led me to rummage through old diaries, talk to relatives, and even seek out experts in paranormal phenomena. Everyone I approached seemed hesitant to speak about the matter, as if that smile, that empty gaze, was part of a secret too terrible to be revealed. About 30 days after the incident in the kitchen, the inexplicable happened. On a gray morning, as I woke up, I felt a strange absence. Gabriel was not in his room. The door, locked from the inside, exuded an eerie chill, and the mirror in the hallway bore a disturbing message, written with trembling fingers stained with what seemed to be a mix of saliva and tears. He now smiles for you. At that moment, reality shattered before my eyes. Panic took hold of me, and I ran through the house, calling my son's name, hoping to find him unharmed. Each room was empty, except for the sinister marks left on the walls and furniture, as if someone or something had passed through, leaving a trail of anguish behind. I cried, screamed, begged any entity that might hear me, but the silence was absolute. The sense of helplessness was overwhelming, and every minute without Gabriel felt like an eternal punishment. Deep down, I knew this wasn't the first time that evil had manifested, but now, somehow, it had become bolder, more present. In the days that followed, I embarked on a desperate search, consulting old records and retracing every detail of the last few weeks. During this investigation, I discovered ancient documents mentioning an entity, a disturbed spirit spoken of in local folklore and forgotten legends. This presence, according to accounts, preyed on the vulnerability of the innocent, implanting in them an eternal smile as a mark of its influence. Every story ended the same way, with the irrevocable loss of someone who, just like Gabriel, had been enchanted by that ancient malevolence. My mind was consumed with doubt and anguish. Had I, as a mother, failed to protect my son from such an ancient and relentless force? No matter how much I searched for answers, the truth remained shrouded in mist and terror. During sleepless nights, I heard whispers coming from every corner of the house, and the distant echoes of laughter made me wonder if, somehow, Gabriel's smile was just the tip of an iceberg of horrors that could never be contained. In the solitude of my despair, I relived every moment, every sign that once seemed harmless, but now painted the picture of an inevitable fate. I recalled with sorrow the days he smiled at nothing, the moments when the invisible presence seemed to converse with him under the silent gaze of the moon, and the anguish that overtook me each time his eyes drifted into inexplicable daydreams. One somber afternoon, as the rain insistently battered against the windows, I decided to confront whatever had taken hold of my son. Armed with courage and desperate for a solution, I sought out a well-known medium in the region, a man of few words but unwavering conviction. He examined the house with eyes that seemed to see beyond the visible, murmuring prayers and chanting ancient hymns. For hours we engaged in a ritual that blended elements of faith and despair, attempting to expel the shadow that had lodged itself within Gabriel. In that moment, I felt a presence almost tangible, a dense energy that resisted every intervention. The medium, his voice heavy with emotion, stated that the evil had rooted itself too deeply, that the smile was not merely a trait, but the seal of a dark pact. He advised me to say my goodbyes, to accept that my son had been taken to a place from which there was no return. But how could a mother simply give up? Even in the face of absolute terror, my protective instinct pushed me to keep fighting, to refuse the idea of losing Gabriel to something so abyssal. Days passed, and the situation worsened. The house, once filled with happy memories, had turned into a nightmare. Objects moved without explanation, and every mirror seemed to reflect not just my image, but also that of a boy with that unsettling smile. I found myself surrounded by shadows and whispers, questioning my own sanity. In moments of despair, I recalled my son's lost innocence, trying to convince myself that there was still hope, that a mother's love could redeem even the sins of fate. Then, on a sleepless night that felt eternal, I woke to a familiar sound, slow, dragging footsteps in the hallway. My heart pounded, and with trembling limbs I walked to the living room. There, in the midst of the darkness, I saw Gabriel again. He stood still, his silhouette bathed in the faint moonlight streaming through the window. His smile, now even wider and more sinister, seemed almost defiant, as if trying to communicate something I would never understand. His eyes, once filled with childlike curiosity, were empty, lost in an abyss of despair and resignation. "Mom," he said, his voice a strange mix of sadness and relief. "He is inside me. I can't fight him anymore. He says that one day I'll be the next to smile like this." Those words rooted me to the spot. The terror I had feared all along was now undeniable. The evil wasn't just inside Gabriel. It was part of something much larger, something that thrived on our weaknesses and the fear we fed it. In that moment, I understood that Gabriel's smile wasn't just a curse. It was a warning, a prelude to a transformation that would spread, consuming him, me, and perhaps all of us. From that day on, our existence became split between two worlds: the visible, where I desperately tried to maintain normalcy, and the unseen, where shadows and whispers reigned. Each new dawn was a battle, an effort to deny the inevitable. I sought refuge in old prayers, in the hope that light could dispel the darkness creeping ever closer. But Gabriel's sinister smile was always there, lurking, reminding me that some forces cannot be tamed. Now, as I recall these events, my heart still tightens with anguish and remorse. I still don't know if what I lived through was the delusion of a desperate mother, or if we had truly crossed the threshold into the unknown. Every time I close my eyes, I see that boy's smile, a smile that carries the weight of an inevitable fate, and I hear his whispering voice echoing through the corridors of my memory. He now smiles for you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.